At her birthday party I paid for, my girlfriend got drunk, clinked her glass, and announced, "This is my boyfriend. He pays all my bills, buys everything, follows me around like a pathetic dog, but actually thinks I love him." Her friends laughed and one said, "At least he's useful." When I got up to leave, she smirked, "Don't be so dramatic. We both know you'll come crawling back by tomorrow." Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Hey Reddit! This is a throwaway for obvious reasons. Never thought I'd be posting in this sub, but here we are. Fair warning, this is long, but I think worth the read if you've ever been taken advantage of by someone who claimed to love you. I've spent the last week trying to process everything that happened, and writing it all out seems like the only way to make sense of it. Maybe it'll help someone else recognize the red flags I missed for so long. I, 36 male, been with Melissa, 32 female, for almost 4 years. Or I should say, was with her. Some background about me. Grew up middle class in Ohio. Dad was a mechanic who taught me the value of working with my hands. Mom worked at the hospital admin office and showed me what real dedication looks like. Learned early that nothing in life comes easy. After high school, went to community college, then state school for construction management, moved to Denver after graduation with basically an old Honda and $600 to my name. Now I run my own construction company. Started as just me and my buddy Todd doing small renovations out of my truck. Now we've got 17 employees and contracts booked 8 months out. We specialize in high-end kitchen remodels and custom outdoor living spaces. Decks, pergolas, outdoor kitchens, that kind of thing. Nothing glamorous about what I do. I still show up to sites with dirt under my nails and sweat through my shirts daily, dealing with permit offices and supply chain headaches. But after busting my ass for 9 years, I finally bought a decent house last year. 3-bedroom ranch on a quarter acre that I've been slowly renovating, have actual money in the bank, and can take a day off without panicking about bills. Melissa worked in pharmaceutical sales. Always looks perfect. Designer everything, hair done weekly at some salon where they serve champagne, nails always freshly manicured, the kind of woman who spends $400 on face cream without blinking. When we met at a charity auction my buddy dragged me to, I figured she was way out of my league. I was there because I donated a custom backyard makeover package, wearing the only suit I owned at the time. Navy blue, slightly too big in the shoulders. She was wearing this silver dress that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage, looking like she'd stepped out of a magazine. She came over while I was awkwardly hovering near the bar, introduced herself, and seemed genuinely impressed when I told her what I did. Looking back, I bet she was calculating my income potential in her head while I was stammering through conversation. She gave me her number before walking away, and I almost convinced myself it was a fake until she answered my text the next day. First few months were amazing. Sex was incredible. She seemed interested in my work, even came to a job site once. Complained about her shoes getting dirty, but still showed up. By month 6, she had a drawer at my place. By year 1, she was staying over 5 nights a week, but insisted on keeping her downtown apartment that I later found out I was basically paying for through loans that never got repaid. In hindsight, the red flags were fucking screaming at me. She lost her credit card at least once a month and needed to borrow cash. Her car always needed some emergency repair right when a new designer collection dropped. She'd make these little comments about how I could clean up nice when I tried, or how she was helping elevate my lifestyle. She'd get migraines whenever it was her turn to pay for dinner. But the sex was great. She was gorgeous. And honestly, I was just happy someone like her wanted to be with someone like me. Fucking idiot, right? It wasn't all bad, at least not at first. She could be really thoughtful sometimes. Remembered things I mentioned liking, got me a really nice watch for my birthday, though I later found out she used my own credit card for it. She'd brag about me to her friends, calling me her sexy builder man. For a guy who grew up feeling pretty average, that kind of attention from a beautiful woman was intoxicating. Over time, though, things shifted. The thoughtful moments became rarer. The loans became more frequent. The comments about my job went from playfully teasing to barely disguised contempt. But like a frog in slowly heating water, I didn't notice I was being cooked until it was almost too late. Melissa's 32nd birthday was 2 weeks ago. I'd spent a month planning it. Reserved the private room at Aspen Grove, some fancy farm-to-table place where appetizers cost $30. Could have gone to my buddy Jake's restaurant where I redid his kitchen, and he would have hooked us up, but Melissa always said it was too casual for important events. I invited 15 of her friends, arranged for this custom cake with edible gold and some shit called mirror glaze that cost $250 alone. All told, I dropped around $4,800 on the night. Didn't even flinch writing the check because that's what you do when you love someone, right? The day of her birthday, I even left the job site early to make sure everything was perfect. The restaurant had set up the private room exactly as I'd requested. Flowers on every table, her favorite peonies, $200 from the fancy florist, a photo display I'd put together showing our 4 years together, gift bags for all the guests with expensive candles, and bath products that Melissa had once mentioned liking. I'd even arranged for her favorite dessert wines to be served with the cake, tracked down some limited bottle she'd talked about for months. The gift I'd gotten her was in my pocket, a pair of sapphire earrings that matched her eyes, wrapped in a box from the jewelry store she always lingered in front of at the mall. Dinner started off great. Food was good, though overpriced, $60 for a chicken dish that wasn't even as good as what I could make at home. Drinks flowing, everyone seemed to be having fun. Melissa was wearing this red dress that probably cost more than my first car, drinking fancy sparkling water since she didn't like how sugar and cocktails made her bloated. She wasn't drunk at all, which makes what happened next even worse. She was completely clear-headed. She was sitting at the head of the table like the queen she thought she was. Me to her right. Her work friends were there. These women with identical highlighted hair and shrill laughs. Her CrossFit instructor, Kevin, who I always suspected had a thing for her, was there, looking uncomfortable in actual clothes instead of gym wear. Her sister Taylor was there. A few college friends, all the usual suspects. Time for toast comes around. Her friend Zoe goes first, tells some story about their trip to Cabo that I paid for but wasn't invited to. I went next, kept it simple, said I loved her, was proud of her accomplishments this year, looking forward to our future together. Everyone raised their glasses, awed appropriately. Then Melissa stands up, water glass in hand. I thought she was going to thank everyone for coming. Instead, she scans the room with this weird smirk, puts her hand on my shoulder with her nails digging in slightly, and says loud enough for the whole table to hear, "This is my boyfriend Ryan. He pays for everything, buys me whatever I want, follows me around like a little puppy." She pauses, looking around making sure she had everyone's attention, and somehow still believes I'm actually in love with him. The table went completely silent for a few seconds. Then her friends, these plastic surgery nightmares she calls her girls, started laughing. Not everyone. Her sister looked like she wanted to crawl under the table, and my buddy Dave, who I'd invited, just stared at his plate. But enough people were laughing that I felt like I couldn't breathe. The server who was refreshing water glasses froze, clearly unsure what to do. I saw him make eye contact with another server, both of them wide-eyed. I must have had some look on my face because Melissa rolled her eyes and said, "Jesus, it's just a joke. Lighten up." But there wasn't any humor in her voice. Just contempt. Pure contempt for the guy who had just dropped nearly $5,000 to celebrate her birthday. I quietly put my napkin on the table and stood up. Didn't say a word, just grabbed my jacket from the back of the chair. The earrings felt like they were burning a hole in my pocket. "Where do you think you're going?" she snapped, looking annoyed like I was somehow ruining her special night. "I'm done," was all I said. I wasn't going to make a scene in public. That's not who I am. That's when she said it, loud enough that the servers by the wall could hear, "Don't be so fucking sensitive. We both know you'll come crawling back by tomorrow. You always do." She said it with such certainty, such dismissiveness, like I was some trained dog who always returned no matter how she treated me. That's when something inside me just broke, or maybe it finally healed. I don't know. I just looked at her for a long moment, taking in every detail of her face. The face I'd woken up next to for 4 years. The face I thought I'd be seeing for the rest of my life. And I realized I didn't recognize it anymore. Or maybe I was seeing it clearly for the first time. I didn't slam doors, didn't curse, didn't make a scene. Just walked out, handed the valet my ticket, and waited silently for my truck. The valet seemed to sense something was wrong and didn't try to make small talk. I tipped him $20 and drove home with no music, no calls, just the sound of my thoughts finally breaking through years of bullshit. When I got back to my house, the house I'd spent every weekend for months fixing up, with the deck I'd built with my own 2 hands, and the kitchen I'd renovated myself, I made a cup of coffee and sat out back, staring at the stars. Suddenly, 4 years of memories looked completely different. All those times she teased me about my rough hands in front of her friends, how she'd ask me not to mention what I did for work around certain people because they wouldn't understand. The way she'd roll her eyes whenever I talked about a project I was proud of. That time, I overheard her on the phone telling her friend I was not exactly intellectually stimulating, but useful to have around. How she needed new clothes for every event because people notice these things, Ryan. How her girls' trips always seemed to happen when I mentioned wanting to save for something important. The mysterious weekend conferences that she never had paperwork for. How she always kept her phone face down around me. The male co-worker's name that seemed to pop up in conversations, then disappear when I asked questions. I wasn't completely blind. Deep down, I knew she loved my credit card more than me. But I guess I thought eventually she'd see past the money to the guy who worked 60-hour weeks to provide it all. What a fucking joke. My phone started blowing up within an hour. Texts from Melissa ranging from pissed, way to embarrass me on my birthday, to defensive, it was obviously a joke, everyone was laughing, to fake tears, baby please I'm sorry, come back. I scrolled through the messages, feeling strangely detached, like I was reading someone else's drama. I silenced the notifications, but didn't block her. Something told me I should keep evidence of everything in case shit got crazy. I couldn't sleep that night. Kept replaying not just the birthday disaster, but 100 smaller moments that suddenly made sense. Like finding receipts for lunches for two on days she said she was eating alone, or how she'd get irritated if I surprised her at work, or the time I found a men's watch in her car that she claimed belonged to her cousin, who I'd never met or heard of before or since. Sunday morning, I woke up after maybe 3 hours of sleep, but feeling like someone had lifted a 200-pound weight off my chest. With complete clarity, I knew exactly what I needed to do. Before packing up Melissa's things, I decided to do something I probably should have done years ago, a thorough investigation. If she was going to humiliate me publicly, I wanted to know exactly what I'd been dealing with. First, I pulled up all of our shared financial accounts and started downloading statements from the past 2 years. I'm not usually the vindictive type, but something about the cold calculation in her voice when she mocked me in front of everyone made me think this wasn't just about money. This was about power. I created a spreadsheet tracking every emergency loan, every suspicious purchase, every unexplained withdrawal. The pattern was so obvious it made me sick. Over $67,000 in the last year alone on designer clothes, spa treatments, suspicious work dinners, and weekend getaways I was never invited to. Almost every major purchase conveniently happened after I mentioned a business expense or investment opportunity. She'd been systematically draining resources from my company's growth. Then I checked the black card statements. There were repeated charges at hotels downtown. On nights she claimed to be working late. The same restaurant name kept appearing with charges for two people when she was supposedly having lunch with the girls. I found recurring charges to an apartment rental service I'd never heard of. Against my better judgment, I decided to visit her apartment with my key. I told myself it was to gather evidence, but part of me needed to see the truth with my own eyes. The doorman greeted me by name. Ms. Melissa's not here, Mr. Ryan. She left early this morning with a gentleman. Said they were heading to brunch. That's fine, I said, feeling my jaw tighten. I'm just dropping something off. Inside her apartment, I found what I'd feared. Men's clothes that weren't mine in the closet. Grooming products I didn't recognize in the bathroom. Photos of her with some guy at what looked like a beach resort. Dated during a week she told me she had a critical training conference in Chicago. I took pictures of everything without touching anything. Not out of respect for her privacy, that ship had sailed, but because I needed evidence that couldn't be disputed. The final nail in the coffin was a journal I found in her nightstand. Normally, I'd never read someone's private thoughts, but my name on the open page caught my eye. Ryan's finally talking about expanding the business. Time to push for that Aspen trip next month. He won't notice the money if I time it right. I photographed several pages where she'd literally documented her manipulation strategies. Act interested in the kitchen project equals new Gucci bag. Pretend to be impressed by client meeting equals weekend at the spa. She'd been playing me like a game all along. As I left, I stopped by the front desk. Quick question. I'm helping Melissa with something. How often does she use the Airbnb listing for her apartment? The doorman looked uncomfortable. I'm not supposed to discuss residence activities, sir. I nodded understanding, then added casually. No problem. Her sister Taylor mentioned it, and I was going to help update the listing photos. His face relaxed. Oh, if you're helping, that's different. It's quite popular. Usually booked 3 or 4 nights a week. The cleaning service comes every morning around 10 o'clock. I thanked him and left, pieces falling into place. She'd been renting out the apartment I was paying for, pocketing the money, and staying at my place for free. The perfect scam. I spent the rest of Sunday gathering all of Melissa's things from around my house. Clothes, makeup, jewelry, the Peloton she used twice, The 6 pairs of designer shoes in my closet, all the expensive face creams and hair products in my bathroom. I packed it all meticulously in boxes, labeling each one with clinical precision: clothes, bathroom, jewelry, electronics, shoes. It took about 4 hours to find everything. It was amazing how much of her stuff had infiltrated my space, while she still kept her own apartment as a side hustle. I placed her key on top of the jewelry box and loaded it all into my truck. As I was doing a final sweep of the house, I found the birthday card I'd gotten her still sitting on my dresser, never given. Inside was a handwritten note about how much I loved her and a gift certificate for a weekend trip to Santa Fe I'd planned. I tore it all up and threw it in the trash, feeling nothing but relief. Monday morning, I didn't go to her apartment as originally planned. Instead, I went to my lawyer's office with all the evidence I'd collected. James had handled the legal side of my business for years and had become a friend in the process. "This is quite a situation," he said, reviewing the photos and financial documentation. "What exactly do you want to do here, Ryan?" "I want to protect myself, my business, and my assets," I said. "And I want to make sure she can't spin this into me being the bad guy." James nodded. "Smart. First, we document everything formally. Then we create a clean break that's legally sound. No gray areas she can exploit." We spent 3 hours drafting documents: a formal termination of financial support, certified letters to credit card companies removing her as an authorized user, official notices to any shared accounts or services. We even prepared a cease and desist regarding any potential defamation. "What about the apartment?" I asked. "I've been paying her rent for almost 3 years." James thought for a moment. "The illegal subletting gives us leverage. If her landlord found out, she'd face eviction and potential legal action for violating the lease terms." "I don't want to sink to her level," I said. "It's not about revenge, Ryan. It's about protecting yourself from further exploitation. She's shown she's willing to use anything against you." That afternoon, I called the property management company directly. "I've been making payments for Unit 1506 for a resident named Melissa Davis," I explained. "I need to terminate this arrangement immediately." "I understand, sir. We'll need written notice, and I also need to inform you of potential lease violations. The unit has been listed on Airbnb for some time, which I believe violates the terms of her rental agreement." The silence on the other end was telling. "That is indeed a serious violation, sir. We'll need to investigate immediately." "I have documentation I can provide," I offered. Screenshots of the listing, booking confirmation sent to her email that was accidentally linked to my account, statements showing income from the platform. By Tuesday morning, I had all my ducks in a row. I drove to her apartment building with the boxes and a detailed plan. The same doorman nodded to me as I walked in. "Big delivery today, Mr. Ryan." "Last delivery, actually," I said. He raised his eyebrows but didn't comment. I used the key one last time and brought up all the boxes, arranging them meticulously in her living room. On top, I placed an envelope containing copies of all the documentation I'd gathered: financial statements highlighting her unauthorized purchases, photos of her apartment being used as an Airbnb, pictures of her with the other man, pages from her journal detailing her manipulation tactics, and a formal letter from my attorney terminating any financial obligations. My note was simple: "I'm not crawling back. Everything is documented. Your landlord knows about the Airbnb. The black card is canceled. Any attempt to contact me or damage my reputation will result in all this evidence being shared with everyone who matters. Your choice." I left my key on top of the note and walked out. Felt like 50 pounds lighter just riding down that elevator. The doorman gave me a little salute as I left. Something in his eyes looked like respect. By Tuesday night, all hell broke loose. Melissa must have returned home to find the boxes and documentation because she called me 27 times in the span of 2 hours. I didn't answer. Then the texts started, ranging from rage, "You had no right to go through my things," to panic, "Please don't show anyone those pictures," to desperate bargaining, "I can explain everything. Just give me a chance." I forwarded each message to my lawyer without responding. He advised maintaining complete silence. Let her panic, let her wonder what I might do next. Psychological warfare at its finest. Wednesday morning, I went to work as usual, checked in with all the crews, ordered materials, reviewed blueprints with clients, told my business partner Drew what happened. He just nodded and said, "About fucking time, man. That woman was bleeding you dry. No judgment, no pity party, just truth. This is why I like working with guys who build shit for a living. No bullshit." By Wednesday afternoon, Melissa had gone nuclear on social media, started posting about how some men can't handle strong women, and throwing away 4 years over a joke shows who the real child is. Her friends were commenting with things like, "You deserve better, girl," and "Toxic men can't stand successful women." I just took screenshots of everything without responding. Each post was another nail in her coffin of credibility, if this ever escalated further. She posted a tearful selfie with the caption, "When you give everything to someone and they throw it all away over nothing." The comments were filled with people asking what happened, and her vague responses about men who can't handle being called out. I almost broke and responded publicly with what really happened, but something stopped me. Getting into a social media war wouldn't solve anything. The people who mattered knew the truth. The rest could believe whatever they wanted. That night, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Is this Ryan?" a man's voice asked. "Who's asking?" "My name's Alex. I think we need to talk about Melissa." My stomach tightened. "I'm listening." I was, hell, I don't even know what to call it. We've been seeing each other for about 8 months. She told me you guys were basically broken up, just living together for financial reasons until the lease ended. I actually laughed. There is no lease. I own my house. And we were very much together until her birthday party 2 days ago. Silence on the other end. Then, fuck, she told me that necklace was from her parents. What necklace? The sapphire one. She said it was a family heirloom. The necklace I'd given her for Christmas. Cost me almost $3,000. Look, Alex continued, I'm not calling to cause problems. I found your number in her phone while she was in the shower. Some things haven't been adding up, and after what happened yesterday with her landlord calling about the Airbnb violations, I needed to know if I've been played too. Join the club, I said. How'd you meet her? Pharmaceutical conference in Phoenix. I work for a competing company. She approached me at the hotel bar. Same way she'd approached me at the charity auction. Classic predator finding new prey. What's your plan now? I asked. He sighed, walking away. I've got screenshots of her telling me you two were practically separated. Figured you might want them for your records. I gave him my email, and sure enough, 10 minutes later, I had a folder of conversations proving she'd been actively pursuing Alex while living in my house and spending my money. Telling him I was emotionally abusive. Claiming I controlled her finances when in reality, I was funding her entire lifestyle. Thursday morning, Melissa showed up at my office, looking surprisingly put together. Full makeup, hairstyled, wearing a dress that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. The receptionist called back to warn me. Want me to tell her you're in a meeting? She offered. No, I said. Send her back, but first, call Drew and ask him to come to my office, and maybe have security on standby. Drew arrived first, giving me a questioning look. I quickly explained the situation. You want me to stay? He asked. Just for the first few minutes. Witness protection. When Melissa walked in, her face fell slightly seeing Drew there. She'd clearly expected to get me alone. We need to talk privately, she said. Voice sweet, but eyes cold. Drew's my business partner. Anything you need to say can be said in front of him. She glared but quickly recovered, sliding into the chair across from my desk. Ryan, baby, this has all been a terrible misunderstanding. That joke at my birthday, I was just nervous and it came out wrong. You know I love you. I didn't respond. Just looked at her. The Airbnb thing, I was just trying to contribute financially. I should have told you, but I was saving to surprise you with a vacation. Still silence from me. And those photos with Alex, he's just a colleague. Nothing happened. You're the only one I want. Finally, I spoke. Are you done? She blinked, clearly thrown by my calmness. I just want us to work this out. I'll pay you back for everything, I promise. I pulled out a folder and slid it across the desk. Inside is every message between you and Alex for the past 8 months. He contacted me yesterday. Seems you told him we were practically separated and just living together for financial convenience. The color drained from her face. Also inside is a printout of all the money you've taken from me in the last 2 years. Over $112,000 total. There's also a formal letter from my attorney indicating that any further contact from you will be considered harassment. And finally, there's a copy of the report your landlord filed with the rental board about your illegal subletting activities. Her face contorted with rage. You son of a bitch. You think you can just throw me away like garbage? I made you. Before me, you were just some pathetic contractor with dirt under his nails. I gave you class. I gave you status. Drew shifted uncomfortably behind me. I remained perfectly calm. Is that all? I asked. This isn't over, she hissed, standing up. I know things about your business. Permits that weren't filed properly. Cash jobs you didn't report. I could ruin you with one phone call. And there it was. The final confirmation of who she really was. I smiled, which seemed to unnerve her more than anger would have. Every permit for every job is properly filed. Every dollar is accounted for. My business was successful before you, and it will be successful after you. But thank you for adding attempted blackmail to the list of reasons this is over. I stood up. Drew will show you out. Any further communication needs to go through my attorney. As Drew escorted her to the door, she turned back, tears suddenly streaming down her face. Please, Ryan. I'm sorry. I really do love you. I just got scared of how much I need you. For a brief moment, I felt a twinge of doubt. Then I remembered her voice at the birthday dinner. You'll come crawling back by tomorrow. You always do. Goodbye, Melissa, I said, turning back to my computer. It's been 3 weeks since the birthday disaster, and things have settled into a new normal. My lawyer called to inform me that Melissa was officially evicted from her apartment for lease violations. The property management company is pursuing legal action for the unauthorized Airbnb income, approximately $42,000 over the past year, money that came directly from the rent I was paying. Last week, I got a call from Melissa's sister Taylor. We'd always gotten along, and she was one of the few people at the birthday dinner who looked horrified by what Melissa said. You doing okay? She asked when I picked up. Getting there, I said. What's up? Turns out the pharmaceutical sales job wasn't going great. Melissa had been on thin ice for months, not for missing quotas as she claimed, but for unprofessional behavior with clients and inappropriate relationships with colleagues, plural. The days she missed after our breakup, combined with a formal complaint from Alex's company about her conducting a personal relationship without disclosure against industry ethics policies, resulted in termination with no severance. She told everyone you got her fired, Taylor said, sounding exhausted. Claimed you called her boss and made up lies about her. I know that's not true, but thought you should know what she's saying. Thanks for the heads up, I said. How are you holding up with all this? There was a pause on the line. Can I tell you something in confidence? Taylor asked. Of course. I'm actually relieved you left, she said quietly. She's been using you for years, and we've all seen it. Mom and Dad tried to talk to her about it, but she just throws tantrums. You're a good guy, Ryan. You deserved better than how she treated you. That conversation felt like validation from the most unexpected source. The cherry on top came yesterday. Remember that black card she'd been using? After I canceled it, she apparently tried to use it at Neiman Marcus for a $4,700 shopping spree. When it was declined, she created such a scene that security was called. According to a friend who works there, she was screaming about how the card couldn't possibly be canceled because her boyfriend is too pathetic to stand up to her. All those friends who were laughing at her joke and calling me toxic, not a single one has offered her a place to stay. Not one. Turns out people who bond over materialism aren't big on actual friendship when you can't pick up the tab anymore. The real karma, though? Last week I was meeting with clients at their home about a major renovation project, easily a $200,000 job. As I was walking them through the design plans, the wife kept giving me these strange looks. Finally, she said, I'm sorry, but you look so familiar. Have we met before? I don't think so, I replied, continuing with my presentation. At the end of the meeting, as they were signing the contract, she suddenly exclaimed, Wait, you're Melissa's boyfriend. We were at her birthday party. My stomach dropped. It was one of the women who had laughed at Melissa's joke. I prepared myself for awkwardness, or even for them to back out of the contract. Instead, she looked me straight in the eye and said, What she did was absolutely horrible. My husband and I were mortified. We only laughed because we were so uncomfortable and didn't know what else to do. I've been wanting to apologize ever since. I was speechless. Her husband nodded in agreement. We've known Melissa for years through mutual friends. That night was the last straw for us, too. No one should be treated that way. They not only signed the contract, but referred me to 3 of their friends for similar projects. Sometimes karma works in unexpected ways. The final showdown happened this morning. I was at my new job site, a full home renovation for a tech executive, when Melissa showed up. Looking rough, minimal makeup, hair in a messy ponytail, wearing jeans and a simple blouse. For her, this was practically homeless attire. Ryan, please, she said, actually crying for real this time. I've lost everything. My job, my apartment, my friends. I have nowhere to go. My parents won't even let me move back home. They said it's tough love or some bullshit. I continued inspecting the framing work, not even looking at her. Please, Ryan, I'll do anything. I've learned my lesson. I'll get a real job. I'll contribute. I'll be better. Just please don't leave me like this. I finally looked at her. For a second, I felt bad. Then I remembered her voice. You'll come crawling back. Looks like you're the one crawling now, I said quietly. Not a great feeling, is it? I turned to walk away, then paused. Oh, and Melissa? That diamond tennis bracelet you lost last year? The one you made me buy a replacement for? I found the original in your makeup bag when I was packing. along with the stolen earrings from Christmas before last and the missing Cartier watch, wondering how many other things you lost so I'd buy them twice. The look on her face told me everything. It wasn't just a few items, it was a pattern. You know what the sad part is? I continued. If you'd actually loved me even half as much as you loved my money, I would have given you the world anyway. You didn't have to lie and manipulate, but you couldn't see past the dollar signs to the actual person. As I walked away, my site foreman Carlos came up beside me. Boss, want me to call security? I shook my head. No need. She's leaving. And she did, sobbing all the way to her car, which was making that weird knocking sound again. Funny how it always did that when she wanted something expensive. Carlos just shook his head. My ex was like that. Users can smell a good man from a mile away. How'd you get over it? I asked him. He shrugged. Time. And finding someone who actually gives a damn about who you are, not what you can give them. Last night I had dinner with this woman named Claire. She owns a small bakery that supplies bread to local restaurants. Met her when she delivered to my buddy Jake's place. She showed up in jeans and a simple sweater, asked about my work, and actually listened to the answer, insisted on splitting the check. After dinner, she invited me to see her bakery kitchen. Not as a pretense, she genuinely wanted to show me the vintage mixer she'd restored herself. Standing there at 11 p.m., watching her get excited about sourdough starters, I realized something. I'd rather have someone who gets excited about making things than someone who only gets excited about buying things. I don't know if anything will happen with Claire, but for the first time in years, I'm not measuring my worth by what I can provide to someone else. My phone still lights up with desperate texts from Melissa, now offering things she'd never do before if I take her back. Each one makes me more certain I made the right call. Some guys never escape the golden handcuffs of dating someone who sees them as an ATM with a pulse. I got lucky. I got to see behind the curtain in the most public way possible. And painful as it was, it probably saved me years of my life. The most satisfying part? I've started donating to a financial literacy program that helps people recognize and escape financially abusive relationships. The program director nearly fell out of her chair when I told her my story. She asked if I'd consider speaking at their next workshop. Not sure if I'm ready for that, but maybe someday my experience can help someone else recognize the red flags I missed. Just last week, I ran into Kevin, Melissa's former CrossFit instructor, at the hardware store. He approached me cautiously, like he was afraid I might deck him. I just want you to know, he said. She tried the same shit with me after you left. Showed up at the gym crying about needing a place to stay, offering, well, you know. I shut it down immediately. I nodded, appreciating his honesty. Smart man. She wasn't just cheating with Alex, he added. There were at least 2 other guys I know of. She'd bring them to my 6 a.m. class when she thought no one who knew you would be there. This information should have hurt, but instead, it felt like confirmation that I'd made the right decision. The final pieces of the puzzle falling into place. Thanks for telling me, I said, genuinely grateful. For what it's worth, Kevin said as we parted ways, you seem happier now. Less, I don't know, hunched over. He was right. I stand taller these days. Sleep better, too. As for Melissa, I heard through Taylor that she finally moved back to her hometown in Arizona, got a job at her uncle's insurance company. Apparently, she's been telling everyone there that she left Denver because her ex was abusive. Same old Melissa, rewriting history to make herself the victim. But here's the thing about small towns. Reputation follows you. And from what Taylor tells me, it didn't take long for people to see through the act. The constant need for validation, the materialistic demands, the manipulation tactics. When you've been running the same playbook your entire life, it becomes pretty obvious to anyone paying attention. Claire and I have been taking things slow. She's nothing like Melissa. Builds things instead of consuming them. Gets excited about creating value rather than extracting it. The other night, she helped me install cabinets in my kitchen renovation project, covered in sawdust and laughing the whole time. Never once complained about her manicure getting ruined. I'll admit I still have trust issues. Still flinch a little when Claire reaches for her wallet at dinner. Still find myself wondering if there's an angle I'm not seeing. But I'm working on it. Building something healthy brick by brick, just like I build my projects, with a solid foundation this time. So if you're reading this and recognizing your own relationship in my story, all I can say is, your self-respect isn't negotiable. And trust me, walking away from the wrong person clears the path to finding the right one. The best revenge isn't making them suffer. It's living well enough that they finally realize exactly what they lost.